Hi, I'm Tara. Welcome to Let's Do Books. You can email me at tara@thelesbianreview.com with any questions or comments, or come join our Facebook group, the Lesbian Review Book Club. I'm joined today by Anna, our sports romance reviewer at the Lesbian Review. So welcome, Anna.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
So, we are going to talk about a couple of books. And do you want to just give everybody an idea of the theme of what we come here to talk about today?
Yeah. We are here today because it's 2018, which means it's an Olympic year. And more importantly, it's the Winter Olympics, which are happening in just a couple of weeks, I believe, is when the ceremonies kick off, February 8th to be exact. There's my shameless plug for the Olympics right there. But yeah, and I was really excited because I knew that there were already stories out that authors had written involving the Olympics, and I figured this would be a great time to highlight them as well as their stories and as well as anything else important that is happening during the Olympics or may happen during the Olympics this year. My big thing is I've always loved the Olympics personally, and I love it because it's one of the few times that all athletes can get together and they put aside the negative parts of competition. As I look at it, it's like they start, instead of vying for money and vying for, getting that franchise contract and everything, they're just playing because they love to play. They have a lot of heart and they want to play for their country. It's basically a lot of national pride that is involved in that. And I love seeing that. And I know there are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, but the athletes for the most part don't want to participate in that. They just want to play. They just want to win the gold medal. They just want to say, we did this for our country, for our fans back home. And that's really what it's all about to them. And I was really happy in 2016 watching the Summer Olympics in Brazil because I noticed a lot of stories were coming out about women being lesbians and loving women, and their partners are interviewing with some of the newscasters and some of the announcers while their partners are playing on the field, and they're just, nobody's blinking an eye at this. It's like, nobody's being like, oh, that's weird, or wait, what? Nobody's thinking anything like that. They're just like, oh, cool, that's her partner. And they just go on their merry way. They don't think anything of it. And I'm just like, wow, if we could actually get to that point in the rest of the world, that would be awesome.
So good.
I know, right? And that's one of the things I'm really hoping I get to see a lot more of this year in 2018. I don't know if it'll happen because I don't know how South Korea views homosexuality on a whole, but I do know that there are some athletes who have come out, mostly men right now, but I'm hoping more women come out and say, I'm gay, I'm an athlete, I'm competing, let's go. Let's move past this and everything. So I'm honestly looking forward to seeing more of those stories come out this time around. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. It's a pretty exciting time, and I'm not even a sports person.
Mm-hmm.
At all. But there is something special about the Olympics, and I feel like especially the Winter Olympics. I mean, I'm Canadian, right? So
right, yeah, you gotta, yeah, exactly. You're gonna be rooting on for Canada in the ice hockey games. I'm gonna be rooting on USA.
Absolutely.
And most likely by the end, I'll be owing you money or something like that because. As much as I love USA and I think they're a real good team, there's just something about that rivalry. It gets everybody's dander up and everybody puts everything in it, but somehow the Canadians always seem to come out on top. So nothing against Canadians. I love Canadians. Some of my best friends are Canadians or anything like that. It's just when you get into that position of, okay, I got to cheer on one or the other, a lot of things can come dredging up if you're not careful.
I know, it gets tricky. So just so everybody knows, we're going to be talking about two books, and we are probably going to let spoilers out. So if you haven't read either of these books, Delay of Game by Tracey Richardson or Edge of Glory by Rachael Spangler, and you hate spoilers, you're going to want to put this down. You're going to want to go get those two books because, first of all, they're awesome. You should read them.
Yes.
Why haven't you read them yet? They're so good.
Yes, they are very awesome. And honestly, you still have time before the Olympics start because once I picked them up, I couldn't put them down.
Oh my God.
I think I read Edge of Glory in 3 days, which is, even for Spangler books, that's a record for me. And Delay of Game, I think I read in a week, and that was only because I had other work to do. That was the only reason why it took me that long.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a really hard time putting either of those books down too.
Yes,
so yeah,
exactly.
If you can't stand spoilers, pause this podcast, read those books, come back. We will be here waiting for you.
Totally.
And if you don't mind spoilers, well, go ahead. So the first one we're going to talk about is Delay of Game by Tracey Richardson. And I'm just going to share the synopsis that Lise McTagg put together for her review for the Lesbian Review, because she says it better than I could. And just for the record, Lise loves this book as much as we do as well. So that's three reviewers at the Lesbian Review who are putting the stamp of approval on this book.
Yes.
So the story opens in the run up to the 2014 Olympic Winter Games. Nikki Hartling's still trying to recover from the death of her wife, and she's offered the chance to coach Canada's women's ice hockey team for the Olympic tournament. It is with some trepidation that she accepts the offer. As a single mother, there are many obstacles in her way. One of those obstacles is Eva Caruso, Nikki's former lover, who is trying to coax her battered body through one more Olympics for the Americans. At its peak, their relationship was tumultuous and ended badly. Now that things seem to be thawing between them, can they regain what they had, or will the machinations of others in the quest to gain the gold medal keep them apart? I have no idea if I pronounced that word correctly. That is one of those words that I've only ever read with my eyeballs, not with my mouth.
We'll just go with it. It's not a problem.
That's not a problem. That's good. So, what did you think of our two leads in this book?
I love the two leads very much so, and I loved how it really showcased like what happens when nationality does interfere with, a relationship, especially in the form of competition, which was a great setting for this. I know Tracey Richardson herself is Canadian and everything, but I really loved how she took both views of this, and not that it was like one was, perfectly right and perfectly wrong. They both were wrong in a lot of ways about this, and they let the competition get between them. I do know of certain athletes where, they have different nationalities and they do have to compete against each other at times, but they always make sure to find that balance to make sure they don't take the game home with them. Like if one of them wins, one of them loses in that respect, and they always are very respectful to the other person. But I think also, while they did let the competition get to them, they also let the outside forces that were driving them get to them more than anything. I mean, there's a very, very strong antagonist who I was like, I wanted to see her get her comeuppance, Allison, at the end. And if there was one complaint I had about the book, that was it. It was like, I kind of wanted to see what happened to her. I was happy to see what happened with everybody else who was involved in that, get, their just due and everything. But I felt like she got off a little too easily. Like she got a plane ticket home.
Well, in the version of events in my head, that plane crashed.
Yes. I'm just going to say that. It's like, Tracey, if you listen to this, the plane crashed. Just let us know that. You can even just let us know that privately.
Yeah, send me an email, Tara at lesbianreview.com.
It's like, say, yes, the plane crashed. Everybody else lived happily ever after. And I can understand a little bit, because when we see Nikki and Eva in their older years, they've definitely matured more. They've gotten more grounded in who they are. Nikki, especially because she's been a mom and a wife and everything. Yeah. Ava's kind of still on that precipice of turning over from being that cocky little hockey player kid to being an adult. And I feel like they can look back and see, oh, these were the mistakes we made. Let's make sure we don't let them happen again. And I think that's what actually inevitably allows them to succeed in getting their relationship back and allowing them to have that happily ever after that they so wanted the first time around, but were unable to because they were just cocky little sports kids. And I mean, even Nikki was just like, she's so full of Canadian pride, and and pride is a big subject matter in this. Is like, are you going to let your pride get in the way again of what you want most out of this? Whether it's you're playing on the ice, or you're like, well, she dumped me first, or she did this and they did that, blah, blah, blah. You just got to learn to let that go. And I think watching them as they go through the process of going through the the roster process with Nikki and Eva getting on the team and them doing the exhibition games and everything like that, and watching them grow not only as people, but growing closer together again and realizing that there's something shady going on. And instead of being like, well, it's your person doing this, well, it's your person doing that, they decide to actually work together this time to figure it out. And I think that's what really shows their maturity in these games as opposed to like their previous experiences together.
Yes.
Which I loved. I love it when characters have growth like that. So
they both have huge growth because Eva really is like, she's still a player kind of at the beginning.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, she has like a fling with the sports medicine person whose unfortunately name is like not coming to me right now, but it's like I remember the enemies very well, but I can't remember.
But unfortunately, they're friends.
Yeah, I know. It's like, okay, I'm wrong. But yeah, it's like even the woman she has the affair with is like, I see how you look at Nikki. I know there's still something there. And she's smart enough to bow out because she's like, look, we had fun. Yes. There wasn't anything more than this. So I don't want to get in the way of that. But she does stay her friend, which I think is very commendable of anyone who's been in that situation. Is like, like, look, you're my friend. We're still going to be friends. We're just going to take the benefits part away from that right now. So
I would happily read a book about her.
Oh yeah, I totally would too. Especially if she got the job to be the USA coach after Eva decided to be like, I know, right?
Yeah. Okay, that'd be
like,
all
that'd
right.
be cool.
Tracey Richardson, feel free.
If you're listening, yes,
to write this book for us.
Please, we will happily read it. Trust me.
What did you think of Rory, Nikki's daughter?
I loved Rory. I thought she was so awesome. And I don't know if it's just me being up there in age or not having kids of my own, but I've gotten, like, I have 2 nieces. I don't get to see them that much. So when I do see books where it's like you have a single mom, I was raised by a single mother. So I really do get drawn to those stories because I want to see them have, those happy moments as well. And Rory was just the greatest kid I have read in a while. She wasn't, I mean, some kids can be annoying in stories. She wasn't annoying. She was just awesome and cool. And I loved how at the last game, she had on her Canadian sweatshirt, but she had the USA shirt on underneath. And I was like, there you go, kid.
Yes, it was so cute.
It's like, I got my national loyalties, but I got my friend loyalties too. So
I know. I like my mom's girlfriend and my mom.
Exactly. That's totally what it was. And
yeah.
You got to give kudos for a kid who figures out how to do that, problem solves like that, to figure that out.
Well,
yeah, that was sweet.
I like that she read like a real kid too, because I feel like that's the downfall sometimes of kids in romances, is that they're kind of there as these like little cardboard cutouts to shuffle the plot along.
Yes.
But she wasn't like that. Like, she was a fully formed person.
Yeah, and she got like one-on-one time with Eva to build that relationship, which I found very integral to Eva and Nikki getting back together, because if the kid doesn't like her, then nothing's going to happen. I've seen that happen a few times. Yes. And if it does happen, it's going to take a lot of time to win the kid over. But I know what you're talking about. There have been stories I read where it's like they introduce these cool kids and you're like, oh, this is awesome. And then you hardly see him throughout the rest of the book. And I'm just like, well, wait, I wanted to see more of the kid because I thought that was really cool. It's just more of like a catalyst to get these two people together, and then they kind of go away. And I'm like, I was like, if you're going to have a kid there, have the kid there.
Yes.
Don't bring it in and then shuffle her off somewhere in another room for the rest of the story. No, I don't like that.
Yeah. So how did you feel about how this book was written?
It flowed very easily for me. I know with sports, it can be, you got to find a good balance between not only the off-field stuff or off the ice stuff in this case, but the on the ice stuff, because this is a competition. If this was just, them training to become better players, that'd be one thing. You wouldn't have to worry about the on the ice stuff as much. But this is something they're working towards a goal. They're wanting to win gold medals at the Olympics. So you have to show the on the ice stuff. And I find that if you're not careful, when writing sports romance, you can get really sucked into a lot of what is happening on the field or on the ice, and then kind of lose luster in the off the field stuff, or you focus too much on the off the field stuff and then you skim over what's happening on the ice.
Yeah.
In this case. And I know forgive me for sports fanatics out there. I'm sorry. I'm shifting between field and ice. It's like my brain wants to say field, but I know this is ice in this case. But yeah, those are you have to find a good balance between the two, because if you're writing a sports romance, the sport is obviously the driving force, and you have to have a specific goal to where that's going to lead. But you got to have the balance of stuff that's happening off the field and off the ice, so that way you can show the dramatic tension, the dramatic growth that happens with the characters outside of the sport. Because if there's nothing to have outside of the sport, then there's no point.
Absolutely. And if there's not enough of the sport, then why did you make it a sports romance in the first place?
Totally. But yeah, I think Tracey actually did a really good job balancing of showing this is the drama that's happening off the ice, and it does impact what's happening on the ice. All the mystery with Allison and Danny and Lynn and, what are they doing and everything. And behind the scenes to, push each of their teams to either win or lose. Mm-hmm. And what's happening in that. And how it does reflect when they actually go out and play against each other in these exhibition games and what's happening there. So I think she did a good job of balancing them and also making sure they meshed with each other to show this is impacting this.
Yeah.
Very much so. And that is exceptional to me to be able to do that.
I think one of the things that I loved, and I probably should have talked about this when we were talking about them as people, but mm-hmm. I loved how honorable Nikki was.
Yes.
She doesn't want to win if she can't win clean. And I love that, not that Eva wasn't honorable, but it was almost like she became more so, like she really took on that perspective as they grew closer again. Right. And that it was something that they both cared deeply about, that it wasn't about winning at all costs. It was, let's win clean. Let's win because we actually are the best players.
Right. And I think there were two of the few people in that story that actually believed that. Mm-hmm. I mean, outside of the unnamed players that were on the bench that you didn't really get a lot of, development with, everyone else around them was just kind of like, well, Allison's like, well, I know this, so I'm going to blackmail her. Mm-hmm. And same, and it just kind of tumbled, and it seemed like they were the only two people that were like, I would rather play clean and lose than play dirty and win. Yeah. In that regard. And I know with some of the behind the scenes politics that happen with the Olympics, that's not always easy. I mean, look at this year. Russia was banned to come to the Winter Olympics because it got proven that they were doping their athletes.
Really?
Really. So they, as far as I know, if my memory serves me correct, they will not be able to represent their country at the Winter Olympics. Now, they do have athletes who were not involved. They said that those athletes can come and be independent of Russia and compete, but they cannot submit an actual representation for their country this year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I was shocked when I saw that and everything, but I commend the Olympic Committee for coming down on them and saying, you've been doing this for years, so you're not going to be allowed to come.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
what were your favorite aspects about this book?
Rory, obviously, was I was just like, she's such an awesome kid. I would like to hang out with her. Maybe she could teach me about hockey a little bit better and everything. I loved how Tracey was able to show Nikki and Eva's maturity as they got older. Even though it was she didn't have any true flashbacks of them when they were younger. The enough detail she gave just showed just how young they were as opposed to now, and how much they matured and were able to get back what they had, only stronger, in my opinion, because of the fact that, they had finally taken looks at stuff and said, well, I wasn't totally at fault here. She wasn't totally at fault there, but we got to work together and we got to be able to do this and everything. So I really like those aspects of it. very much. And again, I like the balance between the off the ice stuff as opposed to on the ice, and how they were able to really complement each other and show the impact of what was happening, how one impacted the other as well. Those are just my favorite things.
Yeah, I would second all that. Also, I can't not say I love the fact that Nikki is a professor at my old university. Like, come on. So it was kind of cool, like reading about her and Lynn walking around campus and down by the Detroit River, and I'm like, I know where all these things are.
Did she get it right?
I think so. I mean,
okay.
It's been a while since I went to university, but it tracked with what I remember. And then it was kind of cool seeing that they were, the Canadian team was practicing out at the University of Calgary, which is where I live now.
Right.
Well, in Calgary, not at the university.
I was about to say, I was like, wait, hang on.
But it was kind of cool to see, like, oh, all right, so my old home and my current home both got featured in this book, because they don't get featured in Lesfic very often.
Well, that's cool. So if they ever make this into a movie, then we know who to contact. Or if you watch it, you'll be like, no, that's not the university, or that is the university.
That's right.
On budget, right?
This would make a great movie.
I think it would. I would love to see these characters come to life and all that stuff.
Yeah, me too. Did you have any cons?
My only con that I have was there is a point where you realize all these people are involved. And I know what she's doing. She's waiting until we get to the actual Olympic Games to make the big reveal and everything. But I understand that, but at the same time I was just like, I got to a point where it's like, okay, we know these people are involved. It's obvious they're involved. Can we just show it that they're involved? No, we got to wait till here. And so that was my only issue with it. But even that is like, I know what she was trying to do. She was trying to build the tension and show the dramatic effect of it as how it would impact them on the Olympic game stage and everything. So I understand why she did it. I just like, we kind of know this is happening and what's going on. So could have just a little sooner, but it's okay. No, it's not a big complaint. It was just, duh, I know what's going on. So. Yeah.
I think my only one was that one that we talked about earlier with Allison. I wanted to see her get raked over the coals.
Yes. That was another big one. But again, we're in that dreamland where her plane crashed.
That's right.
There you go. Totally.
So in conclusion, we both loved it.
Oh yeah, totally. And it actually has me excited to watch women's hockey this year. So I'm happy about that as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. So our next book is Edge of Glory by Rachael Spangler. Do you want to share your synopsis of it?
I will share my synopsis, definitely. Not a long synopsis, but, it is something. So, Olympic snowboarder Corey LaCroix and skier Elise Brandes are racing towards the 2018 Winter Olympics on the razor's edge of a mountain. Whether they are victorious or will be defeated is up to the mountain. However, the heat that is building between them could be the factor that decides their future on the snow as well as in the bedroom. As the stakes become higher, professionally and personally, will their hearts be able to survive the breakneck speed? Or will the mountain claim their love along with their dreams for gold?
Such a good book.
I know.
So what did you think of these two?
Oh my God. You talk about fire and ice, man. I was just like, could they be any more different? And I could definitely tell Spangler did her research on this, especially with these two characters, because snowboarders do have, the reputation of just being these little, not necessarily non-professional, but they're more gritty, I guess would be the best word to describe it. They wear baggy clothes all the time. They're kind of, the surfers of the snow, I guess is the way to say it and everything like that. And they have like the weirdest sponsors like Mountain Dew and Monster Soda and everything like that. And you're just like, why are they like, but they seem so cool. and everything. They're like the kids that never grew up, you know. It's like they basically just traded their skateboards for snowboards is all they did. But they're very popular. I mean, the X Games are on right now and everything. And it's just like, they're more relatable, I think, to a lot of fans because fans have a lot of that childlike innocence when they watch sports. They're just like, their adrenaline gets pumping and, you know, they get really happy when their favorite team or their favorite, you know, athlete gets points or does really well. And the snowboarders seem very approachable when they do well. Like, they'll go down to the crowds and they'll start high-fiving people and really get into it. And skiers, on the other hand, just seem very, you know, stoic. It's like they gotta stay very rigid in their stance, and they gotta, you know, move really fast and everything. And it just sort of feels like it reflects their personality, when that's probably not the case in a lot of ways. But I'm sure they feel, a lot of fans, while they love watching skiers, they feel that they're not approachable in that specific way. So they kind of just stay back and they'll applaud them and they'll cheer them on and everything. And I feel that Corey and Elise actually embody these two personalities that, like, people feel that they get when they watch these two sports. And it's just very fun to watch them both interact, because Elise is trying to be, you know, very professional and very, you know, I gotta shave 0.2 of a second off my time. I gotta be faster. And Corey's just like, hey, what's up? You know?
Yes.
And it's like, it just kind of throws Elise off guard in a little bit, because there's just this little snowboarder who's just like, okay. But in a way, Corey's very good for her, because she helps her relax. And she shows her, it's like, yes, you can be professional. You can be very, you know, rigid on the course if you want to, but if you don't learn to relax, it's just going to drive you nuts.
Yes.
And I've learned that in every sport that I've ever played. It's like, you get uptight, you get very frustrated because you're thinking about it too much. And if you don't learn to get out of your head and just kind of chill for a minute or two, it's going to drive you insane. And then you're actually probably going to do worse. So I feel like they are very fun to watch. My favorite, and I put it in my review, the yoga scene, when Corey is just blatantly checking her out. And Elise just gives her the stink eye, and Corey's just dumbfaced. She's like, what? You're hot.
Yes.
I'm going to say it, you know?
Well, and I liked, so first of all, I think one of the kind of surprises to me in 2017 was realizing that Rachael Spangler is writing some of our best Thawing the Ice Queen books in Lesbian right now.
Yes.
And this is a great, Edge of Glory is a great one. And so was her other book, Close to Home. Like, they were both.
Oh my God, I love Close to Home. I was so happy to see Kelly get redemption.
Right?
I mean, I think I even said this in my review. This is a lesson in positive frustration for me, because it's frustrating because I've been reading her stuff for 2 years and she still surprises me every time a new book comes out. It's like, I think I got a grasp on how cool she is, and then she comes out with something new, and I feel like I need to throw my pin up in the air, because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. And it's positive because I know that there's no way she's slowing down right now. She's just getting better and better.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, it's like, keep going, keep giving me more cool stuff. I'll take it.
I know, from book to book, she's getting better. And I mean, I love my Ice Queens. I really do. And the thing that was interesting with this was that seeing, it wasn't just about Elise thawing. Elise didn't even respect Corey as an athlete.
Right.
She had she had no respect for her at all. And to go from that, like, realizing, oh, your methods are unconventional, but they work. So then there's like a grudging respect to becoming acquaintances, to sort of becoming friends. But the whole time, Corey doesn't give up on her. Yeah.
I love the scene when Elise is trying to do the jump, actually get her knee back, and she's like, she's not going to her full potential, and Corey can see that. And so she just keeps needling her and egging her on, and she gets on top of the machine, and she's like, grab my hand if you can. And she does, and she goes like above the hand. She like goes above the, and I love that description, because it shows that Corey is going to be the one to really help Elise get what she wants, in every respect for that. So I love that.
And then I think I like too that at the same time, Elise helps Corey, because Corey works hard, but like she helps her take it a little more seriously.
Right.
Because she knows it's probably going to be her last Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's going to be her last Olympics, then like, let's go out with a bang. Like, let's really do this one and work hard at it. But I also love how silly Corey is.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this before we were recording, like one of my favorite things in it is talking about, there's a scene where they're joking around and Elise doesn't understand that this is something that actually happened. But Corey had a pizza challenge one time when she was still in training, and she ate pizza for 60 days in a row.
Yeah.
And
which is unheard of for an athlete when you think about it. It's like, oh God, you know.
Well, and she says though, she won 4 out of 5 races in that time. And so I kind of love that she still has this, as hard as she trains and as hard as she works, she still has this joy about her all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things I like about her too. And it's like, even when, you know, she goes and she does those little meets against the little Tigger girl and everything that they talk about.
Yes.
It's like, even when she loses, she's just very much just like, you know, she did better than me. You know, it happens and everything. And everybody's saying, oh, it's like the end of her career. And she's not necessarily in denial, but she's not looking to that point. She's more of a let's concentrate on now and we'll worry about later and everything. And it's one of those things that really kind of helps her stay focused, but at the same time, it kind of also just makes it hard for her to look past, you know, what's the future hold. And that's one of the things that's frustrating for Elise with her, is the fact that Elise is always looking for the future. And she really is just like, okay, she looks at now as more like a nuisance than anything else. And they really kind of help bring each other towards a central area where, okay, the now is important, but the future is also important. And they help each other see that better by being together than when they were apart.
I really like how good she was too with that. What was that character's name? Was it Nikki?
I think so. I call her Tigger.
Yeah, they did too.
Yeah.
But she is that, like,
yeah.
She's young, she's naive, she's up and coming. Everybody's calling her sort of the face of the sport. And she is a competitor. Like, Corey is competing against her as well, but she still takes her under her wing. And I love that her heart is big enough to do that.
Yes. Yeah, because you get most athletes who are, like, later on in their careers who are trying to hang on, they don't do that. And I think even though Corey very much, you know, she has that fight with Elise about this is her last Olympics and everything like that, even though she argues with her and says, no, it's not, I think deep down she knows it's a possibility. Otherwise, why would she help Tigger out? Why would she, you know, not really put too much emphasis on the fact that, yeah, she did lose to her and everything like that. So I think she understands that the clock is ticking. And while she is trying to hold on, she understands that she can loosen the grip a little bit because it is counting down. It is inevitable. It's just what happens. It's not necessarily meaning you're a bad athlete to go out or anything or to quit, but it just shows you that the body can only take so much. Any good. It's like you got athletes who retire in their mid-30s because, you know, it is hard. By that point, it's like metabolism changes, bones change, everything changes. So it's like what you used to be able to do to stay fit when you're 20s, it's so much different in your 30s. And you have to either compensate for that or you're not going to do very well at all.
Yeah.
And even when you compensate, it may not be enough.
That's true. So, what did you think about how this one was written?
I really love, and this is something I've noticed in all of Spangler's books, especially of late, the way she writes her protagonists are very much, they each have a kernel of something where they're like, this is my point of view, and I'm sticking to it. And the other one's like, well, this is my point of view, and I'm sticking to it. Neither point of view is right, and neither point of view is overly wrong. Mm-hmm. What I mean is basically they have these points where it just really causes them to she does it to make it so they cause dramatic tension against each other, but it's not like their arguments are very sound, and they have a lot of validity to them to make it like, well, if I look at it from her point of view, she's right. If I look at it from her point of view, she's right. And it just makes it so that each character, when they have those moments of reflectiveness, because they do have them, where they start thinking about what the other person said, is like, well, maybe she's right. And then it's like, you get the other point of view, it's like, well, maybe she's right. You know, maybe I'm thinking too hard, or maybe I'm not thinking enough about this certain thing. But yeah, that's one thing I always find very much in her books. I found it in Close to Home. I found it in Heart of the Game. And everything she's done pretty much since then, it's just like, oh my God, this is always so much fun to read. What I really loved about this is how much research she did in showing the training aspect. Usually in books, you don't get that. Mm-hmm. You don't see like, okay, they're in the weight room, they're on the slopes, they're in the ice baths, which I hear are horrendous in a lot of ways.
They don't sound good.
No, they're not. They're not good at all. They're weight training. They're doing all this stuff. They have dietary restrictions that they have to adhere to. It's just all of these things that you have to take into account to get them from the moment they start training to when they're actually, competing. And it's a lot. Mm-hmm. Then it's not fun. But if they want to win the gold medals that they're going for, it's what they have to do to be able to do it. Especially Elise, because she's coming back from an injury. So she has to push herself, but make sure she doesn't push herself so much that she re-injures. And it's grueling, and it's boring, and it's tedious, and it's just, I really got a good sense of what professional athletes have to go through to keep themselves in top shape, to keep themselves going for the many years that they want to go. Bravo to Rachel for that one.
Well, and I liked that she managed to convey all of that in a way that felt natural and didn't feel like, and now we're going to have a little lesson about how athletes will, like, it wasn't an info dump. It wasn't just dropping information on the reader that you had to go through. We got to experience it with Corey and Elise so that we got to see what it really means.
Yeah. And I even love the cheat day, where they had, like, the big buffet of, like, all these things. But it wasn't like, gorge yourself on anything because you're allowed to cheat. It was more like, take a little of this, take a little of that. Things you normally wouldn't have on a regular day, but it fills you up nonetheless.
Tiny portions so that you can try everything.
Finger foods. Exactly. I love that. I thought that was great.
Now I kind of want to have a buffet of tiny finger foods.
I know. I kind of want a tiny pizza right now.
All right. So what was what were your pros? What were your favorite things?
My favorite things were literally the stuff I just mentioned, where she really gave a good, accurate account of what athletes have to go through. And I love that more than anything else. It's like the traveling, the dietary stuff, the physical conditions that they have to live in and have to train in and have to deal with. It's so interesting to read it. And like you said, I got to go along this journey with, I was tired after having some of the stuff that I read about. And I was just like, whew, I feel like I did a workout. I need to get up, do some stuff. But that's what I love, that attention to detail that she really put into, instead of glossing over. It's like, okay, we're going from here to here and we're just doing this stuff. Like, I've seen, and I love that. I love the detail and getting a better idea of what needs to happen for people to be able to do this on a regular basis and professionally. So
absolutely. I think my other favorite thing, and I mentioned this when I reviewed it as well, is that I love that their bodies are not the typical bodies you see in Lesfic. Because in Lesfic, it's all like perfect curves or like that perfect butch hard body or perfectly willowy, but no matter what, they're all ideals, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, we had like thick thighs. Like they're athletes, and they have the bodies of elite athletes, and they're not what you would typically see. And you get to see how they earned them.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a skier and a snowboarder will have very good defined legs and a good core. Mm-hmm. Is definitely what they'll have. And a skier might have good defined arms as well, depending on, how much they use their arms for that and everything. But yeah, it's like, I do love that. It's like, it's definitely an athlete's body instead of, like you said, like, okay,
Yeah. Every woman lesbian, no matter how many babies she's had or how little exercise she's done, always manages to have that perfect.
I know. I'm just like, really? Okay.
Did you have any cons for this book?
My only con is that she's made more work for me. I'm going to have to revise my top 10 sports romance.
Damn you, Spangler!
I know, right? It's like she's already got one book on there. Now she's going to have another. It's like, oh my God. Well, I was going to have to revise it anyway as soon as I read Delay of Game. So I was just like, okay.
I know.
We're going to have to do it again. But okay. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that's a good con to have. I think my only thing is I feel like it wrapped up almost a little too quickly. So for me, this would have been a perfect book to have an epilogue.
Yeah. I could have seen an epilogue in this one and everything.
I don't know. I'm being greedy, I guess.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I wanted the story to continue a little bit more.
Forever.
Forever and ever and ever,
Yeah.
So I get that.
So I think, in conclusion, we also both really loved this book.
Yes, we can definitely say we both really loved this one.
So I think that's all for this episode. Thank you so much, Anna, for joining me.
Oh, I enjoyed it myself. Thank you.
So, I'm Tara. You've been listening to Les Do Books. Remember to email me at tara@thelesbianreview.com with your questions or comments. If you're an author who's interested in joining me on this show to talk about lesfic you love or the trends that have you interested, please let me know. If you've enjoyed this episode, please check out the show notes where you'll find a Patreon link for the Lesbian Talk Show. Just a little bit would go a long way to cover hosting costs for Les Do Books and the other great shows on the channel that are all geared towards queer women, all of which you can find by searching for the Lesbian Talk Show on iTunes, Podbean, or Stitcher.